Hello, I'm Dave Peach, and this is the Crawfordsville Peachcast, sponsored by Tri-County Bank, your community bank since 1892. See them in person or at tricountybank.net. Tri-County Bank, member FDIC, and equal housing lender.
Crawfordsville Peachcast. We are presented by Tri-County Bank, your community bank since 1892, and Central Indiana Rubber Products, or CIR. We are joined by Dave Meyer. And Dave, always when we talk about Central Indiana Rubber Products, we say,
hello, Todd. Hello, Todd.
Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Todd and family.
Indeed. It's that time of the year, Dave. It's the most wonderful time of the year, Dave. It's the holidays. We've endured Thanksgiving, and now what's coming, Dave?
Well, we've got a lot of big football games coming up, and today on the show, we have an interview with Matt Taylor, the voice of the Indianapolis Colts.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Matt, getting a lot of insight there on a pretty exciting Colts season without our high draft quarterback.
They have had some exciting games yesterday as we tape. You're the wordsmith. Would it be inauspicious? Would that be a good word? What does that mean?
Not good.
Okay.
They were not good. I would say the simple part, if folks are reviewing the Cincinnati-Indianapolis game in early December, they will think, their backup's better than ours.
He had problems with his hand, though. I mean, there were some, these quarterbacks, they do everything they can, Dave, to protect the quarterbacks, but they still are fairly injurable.
They're exposed. Yes, they are guys like you and me, except talented and in shape and young. And somehow that's not enough, Dave. They're going to get hurt.
And it could be their hand, a finger. If you think about it, if you're a quarterback, your fingers are important.
All of them. I don't think you can't. There's no Mordecai Brown, right? No three-finger guy that's bringing the Chargers back in the second half. It's a 10-finger, 10-toe game, except for Tom Dempsey, of course.
Oh my, that's going way back now. Who do you like in the AFC is a jumbled mess. Let's cut to the chase here. Who do you like to go to the Super Bowl from the AFC, Dave?
Dave, great question. It looks like that there are a number of teams that possibly can. I probably, at this point, even though I don't think they look like a Super Bowl team, I'm probably still going to go with the Chiefs based on who, the quarterback and the coach, we'll see. It may not be enough because clearly they're not off to the same kind of play as they have in the past when they've won. What about you, sir? Tell me.
I'm going to go, and I'll tell you why when we go to the NFC, but, if it's not the Colts, I'm going to pick the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins, and it's very important, I think, for them to make it this year because you don't want to be Buffalo and have a good quarterback and not make it for like 7 years and your coach almost is on the hot seat and all this stuff. So you better get it done this year if you're Miami.
Well, it's been an exciting year in the fact that almost, no one's going to run away from it. The old guard, New England is now on the other end of that situation. And people are talking about a coach that's won 6 Super Bowls might possibly lose his job. So it's a different world with pro football now, but we'll see. We've got lots of exciting games in December.
Now, NFC, you have got some major players. You've got Dallas, you've got Philadelphia, you've got San Francisco at the top. A lot of people liked Detroit coming into the season. Boy, it's a major market dream for Fox and sometimes CBS when they get some of those games. Who do you like in that conference?
Oh, that is the strong teams of late, especially. I think Dallas is the one. I like Detroit early on. I hope Detroit can make a run. But I would say of those teams, I think I like Dallas a little bit over San Francisco, but boy, how long has it been since Dallas has been in even deep in the playoffs at all?
But let's see, Dave, who you picking though? You got Dallas?
Well, I got Dallas right now. Dallas would be my NFC pick at this point.
So Dave, it's KC versus Dallas. Dave Meyer.
Yeah.
And I'm Dave Peach, in case you did not know. This is the Crawfordsville Peachcast. I'm going to go with Miami, as I mentioned, and I'm going to go back to the 80s. There was a game between a couple of guys. One was named Marino, and another guy was named Montana. And I'm going to go with the Miami San Francisco rematch. How about
Dave,
I'm going to go with
that? Are we talking like, what are we talking, 84, 83? Yeah. What's that time frame? Yeah, that was I believe Dan Marino's rookie year, and he was incredible after not being one of the first quarterbacks selected in that draft. And then everybody said, oh, don't worry, he'll be back. Right?
That's right. And he never made it back.
No, he just like Barkley did not pull the final ticket, but a great career, and obviously sold a lot of gloves.
And I'm going to ask you a question. Do you remember the temperature in Indianapolis, Indiana during that Super Bowl?
Mild would be my general remembrance.
No.
I think it was.
No,
it was cold.
It was absolute. You look it up. You look up that Super Bowl day. It was like 10 below zero. People were having to go out to start their cars periodically to make sure that they still started.
See, okay. What I'm remembering is the week before the Super Bowl here when it got unexpectedly mild.
Oh, you're talking about when Indy had the Super Bowl.
When Indy had the Super Bowl.
I'm talking about Miami, San Francisco Super Bowl back in 85.
You're taking us way back. Yeah, I have no clue. So you have much better meteorological recall, Dave.
I don't know why. Why do I remember that? And yeah, you're right. When the
could we have watched that game together, Dave?
Potentially, yeah.
We potentially could.
Yeah,
yes.
if you had those little cocktail weenies wrapped in bacon with a water chestnut on it, you were at my party.
Yeah. No. With some good dip.
Yes.
I think.
Plenty of dip. Matt Taylor. He has a big game coming up. If you're listening the week that this is on, if you're listening to the archive or whatever, I mean, we've got the big game against Pittsburgh. We'll talk about that. That is definitely almost a loser leaves town match. I think both teams would still be alive, but it would be nice to see the Colts beat the Steelers and have those people with all those towels that'll be there leave a little dejected.
Absolutely. I don't know about you, Dave, but I definitely know some Steeler fans in Indianapolis, and they will be there, and they will be loud, and it will be a tough environment for a home game. I don't know why I should say that, but I somehow a win over the Steelers at home seems, even though they're not in our division, it seems like an important win.
Been talking about it a lot on the air here in Crawfordsville, saying that if the Colts beat the Steelers, they will make the playoffs. I'm going to stick to that. I'm going to say a win over the Steelers and the Colts will be in, and I'll talk that up with Matt Taylor coming up next. He's the voice of the Colts. He's the voice of the Colts, and it's coming up on the Crawfordsville Peachcast.
Are you looking for great prices? Do you have a smartphone? Of course you do. This is Bria French. With Tri-County Bank's Merchant Discount Network, you can get discounts on food, entertainment, tools, and so much more. All you need is a smartphone and your TCB Smart Rewards checking account. Cost savings are only a click away. Terms and conditions may apply. Tri-County Bank, member FDIC, and equal housing lender.
Crawfordsville Peachcast, and we have a special guest on today's show, Matt Taylor, the voice of the Indianapolis Colts. Matt, how are you today?
I am doing great, guys. How are you?
We're doing fine. It has been exciting to follow the Colts this season. A lot of close games, a couple of overtime games that were remarkable. I mean, the Baltimore game probably gets a little bit lost in the shuffle this season. How has it been covering these games and having many of them go right down to the wire?
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, I think the Colts right now, they're 5-2 in one-score games this year, and that's the league, man. I mean, you look at the Steelers; they're 7-2 in one-score games. So they're all coming down to the last 4 minutes. They all come down to 8 points or less, and I think that's what makes this league so much fun. And also, too, if you look big picture right now, there's 4 games to go. You look at the AFC playoff standings; it's a jumbled mess. It's really difficult to make sense of the tiebreaker situations and who has a leg up on other teams, but that's the way the NFL wants it. They want every team, they want every market to still feel like they have a chance heading into the last month of the season, and that's pretty much the case. I mean, really outside of what 5 or 6 teams, maybe a handful in the AFC, another handful in the NFC. I mean, every team is still in this in the sense that they think they've got a shot to make the playoffs if they get hot, get some help around the NFL scoreboard watch. I think the parity in this league is what separates it from other leagues. Certainly not to disparage anything else, but I think that's why the NFL continues to be king of the castle in terms of popularity, fantasy football, all that stuff. So the Colts are right there in the thick of it, right? They're 7-6, 4 games to play. What an enormous game coming up this Saturday against the Steelers, who are also 7-6. So a lot on the line. This game on Saturday has a lot of playoff feel to it because of it being late in the season. The Steelers represent kind of the class of the AFC historically. So it's going to be a really, really fun afternoon on Saturday at Lucas Oil Stadium.
And you'll hear that game on WIMC here in Crawfordsville, 103.9, and the Colts Radio Network, 3:30 for the pregame, 4:30 for the kickoff. It's going to be it's a game that I think the Colts, it's been a while since they've defeated the Steelers.
Yeah, no doubt about it. In fact, 2008. Yeah, it's really, really disappointing the way that the Steelers have controlled this series. You're talking about 8 straight wins for the Steelers over the Colts. And for the Colts, that's their longest current losing streak to any franchise in the NFL. So they haven't won in Indianapolis over the Steelers since 2005. Last year's game, I should say, against Pittsburgh. That happened late in the season, kind of right around this time. And we all remember last year that the season kind of spiraled out of control, and that just kind of added to another layer of misery for the Colts to end that 2022 campaign. So that's why I'm hoping this week's game can sort of represent a slaying of the dragon and get yourself another win, get yourself another conference win, give the Steelers a loss. And they're so important, these head-to-head matchups, but also too, it's an AFC win for the Colts. That would just be so important in terms of the tiebreaker situations that are inevitably going to come into play here in about a month when deciding, who makes the playoffs and who is left to figure out where they're golfing in the month of January.
Now, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, but as the season was starting, there weren't a lot of high expectations for the Indianapolis Colts this season. What were your thoughts? I know we talked about it. You talked about exactly the fact that many of these games come right down to the last possession. But has this season exceeded your expectations?
Well, to be honest with you, I really didn't have any expectations, and that was on purpose because I didn't know what to expect. And that really wasn't a cop-out answer. I just, with the new head coach and Shane Steichen, basically a new offensive staff, coaching-wise, outside of Reggie Wayne, who's the only holdover on that side of the ball in terms of the assistant coaches. You had, at the time, a rookie quarterback that was named the starter about halfway through training camp. There's just a lot of newness there. And then I didn't know how Anthony Richardson was going to acclimate initially to the NFL. So I came in with pretty much an open mind and no expectations. But I'll tell you what, you mentioned that Baltimore game. After the Colts went into Baltimore in a hostile environment in week 3 and improved to 2-1, and the week before pretty much laid it to the Houston Texans, which, by the way, that win is looking so important right now. Obviously getting ahead of ourselves on that. But I just thought back then, what I saw early out of the division, early in the season, and what that win showed me in terms of the bounce back performance from a year ago with this roster, there was no reason then to say and kind of declare that the Colts should be able to compete for the division, which they have, right? They still got a ways to go. I mean, obviously being swept by Jacksonville did not help. But back then I said to myself, there's no reason that this roster and the way the team is currently constructed can't, compete in the AFC South and can't flirt with making the playoffs. And that's pretty much exactly where they're at right now. Now they've stubbed their toe along the way a couple of times. Maybe you could say that they've won a few games that they probably should not have. Well, that's this league. And again, it kind of goes in ebbs and flows and it kind of all settles out. But I think this team is pretty much where they should be, if that makes sense, based on their roster. And again, last year's team, they were 4-12-1 with a lot of holdovers coming back from last year to this year. That was not a 4-12-1 team in terms of talent. So to that end, I'm not really surprised that they've been able to come back, fight, compete, and be in just about every game outside of, last Sunday's performance where they were pretty much taken care of by Cincinnati, losing that game by 20 points.
Now, when you talk about coming back after a loss, from your perspective, is it easier to come back from a loss like the Cincinnati game, or easier to come back after a game like Miami and where they kind of melted down in the last few minutes?
Well, I think as it relates to this week, it's going to sound really, really weird to say, but I'd rather lose a game where, you're kind of thoroughly taken advantage of, right? When you lose by 20 points after winning 4 straight games, it kind of is a resetter. It's an eye opener on, hey, listen, maybe we've been getting away with a couple of things during this 4-game winning streak. Maybe the ball has bounced our way a couple of different times and things kind of even out today in that loss to Cincinnati. So I think it's going to be really easy for the Colts to compartmentalize with, hey, we got it handed to us on the road against Cincinnati, a team that is also fighting for their playoff lives. They're also 7-6, one of those 6 teams that are 7-6 going into the last 4 games of the season. So I think the urgency level just kind of naturally kicks up, and human nature picks up this week when you got your butt kicked and now you come back home and you pretty much play a pseudo playoff game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's not a must-win game, but man, it's pretty close. It's in the neighborhood of gotta have because of the ramifications of this one. We already kind of talked about the head-to-head, the tiebreaker, and all that stuff. But I mean, you look at all the analytical websites. If the Colts win this game, their playoff chances go up to about 60-65% based on what you read. And then if they lose, the playoff odds drop to under 20%. So it's going to be really hard to overcome this loss because it is against the Steelers and it is an AFC game inside the conference. So it feels like the Colts are headed in the right direction in terms of their their head being on the head screwed on straight, if you will, going into this game, knowing all that's on the line and being having had it handed to them, I should say, last Sunday against Cincinnati.
So many backup quarterbacks are playing in the AFC and are playing for contending teams. Can you remember anything quite like we're seeing right now?
No, I think the number right now is 17 teams. 17 teams across the NFL have had to start their backup quarterback at least one game this season. I can't ever remember that. I mean, you look at the teams in the AFC that I had it written down last week. I can dig it up here, but I think going back to last year, at the beginning of the 2022 season, there's only a handful of teams that have had their starting quarterback start every game for them. I think Mahomes was on that list. Herbert was on that list until this week. He's out too. I think Trevor Lawrence is on that list. I know he got banged up a couple of weeks ago, but at least he did come back and start last week's game against the Cleveland Browns. So the Colts have been used to that for a while, unfortunately, right? And we know about the quarterback carousel, since Andrew Luck's retirement in 2019. And, Anthony Richardson's been out of the lineup for this team permanently since week 5. So, that's the value of a backup quarterback. That's where Gardner Minshew comes in and gives you stability and gives you a chance to win every single Sunday. So the Colts are right there feeling the troubles of that, along with seemingly half of the NFL.
Could be an interesting offseason with some of these backups looking for starting jobs, and then the starters are coming back. You could have 40, 42 guys fighting for the spots.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you got the draft too, right? You always have a high draft stock or a high class of quarterbacks, which I think this year's crop of quarterbacks are going to be more highly touted than last year's quarterbacks. So there's always going to be some needy teams that need that key position, and it's always fascinating to see how many teams trade up or give up assets or maybe reach at that spot, just trying to fill that hole that is obviously the most important position in all of sports.
And the Colts coach, Shane Steichen, has really commanded a lot of respect, I know, from his team, obviously, but also around the league.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, again, I know we talked about this at the beginning of the season, but now that we're, basically 3/4 of the way through, you can see how his presence has manifested itself and permeated throughout the locker room. It's a high degree of accountability, and he's done a nice job of striking a balance between all business, all ball, and the proof is in the pudding. You're either going to produce or you're going to not play, or you're not going to be here anymore. But also being a player's coach, like he knows what these guys need, and he's been around this game for a long, long time, despite him being relatively a young guy as it relates to being a head coach in the NFL. You're seeing that now the last couple of weeks, giving guys an extra day off in terms of not practicing on Wednesdays, holding walkthroughs that first practice day of a regular season week, because he knows what time it is. He knows where these guys are at in terms of their bodies, what they're feeling like, and not being 100% and trying to bounce back and trying to just get the most amount of efficiency throughout the work week. So yeah, he's really done a nice job of relating to the players, but also holding himself, the coaches, and the players accountable. And I just think you're seeing a big time culture shift from the last couple of years to this year, and it's resulted into a playoff push and a team that again is squarely in the mix with a month to go.
Okay, fun question. Do you watch all these Colts that are on television? Peyton Manning, Pat McAfee, Jeff Saturday. I know Tony Dungy has retired from broadcasting. What do you watch them?
I do. Yeah, absolutely. And they're all killing it. They all have their different personalities, right? I mean, Pat's in a different stratosphere in terms of outgoingness, if you will, and then I mean Peyton's everywhere, and he's a juggernaut in his own right, certainly. And then, Jeff Saturday obviously was able to kind of seamlessly transition back from the sidelines back to TV. So no, I mean, I've gotten to know most of those gentlemen you just mentioned pretty well, and they're all class guys and obviously great, stewards and representatives of the Colts organization.
Okay, now I saw some video of you calling the game. Is this something that's it was the latter stages of the Tennessee game, and it was you up in the booth, and there was a camera on you and a camera on the game, and I've seen these from time to time. I think the Minnesota announcer, I've seen him, if memory serves me correct. Is that something that's pre-set up, and is that standard for all the broadcast teams?
I mean, yeah, you're seeing it more and more. I mean, I think we live in a day and age where I think people just want to see more. They want to see more behind the scenes. I think any content you can give people that allows them to see how the sausage is made, for lack of a better term, like they just want to see behind the curtain. I think people just crave that with the amount of technology now that we have at our disposal. So yeah, a lot of teams do that. It's pretty easy. On our part, they just set up a GoPro camera, right? One of those little 3-4 inch GoPro cameras. They got it attached to the window, and they just turn it on and they capture whatever they can get. And obviously some pretty fun highlight moments there at the end of that Tennessee game that you're talking about, with the Alec Pierce catch and then the Pittman Jr. Touchdown in overtime. Some exciting moments, no doubt about it. And I don't have anything to do with them. I forget that the camera's there, to be honest with you. And then I show up the next morning and they're like, hey, check this out. See what we did with the camera. And it's pretty remarkable what they're able to turn out and what make look good with just a tiny camera that they have set up right there. So it's pretty fun.
Last question. I know the Colts celebrating a 40th season, and there's special things at every game, I understand, that you hand out.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And this week's game is going to be fun. The Colts are wearing the 1950s throwback uniforms. It's kind of the same design or look, if you will, for the Colts, but some subtle differences between the stripes and the color and the logo and stuff like that. So I think if you look hard enough, you're going to see, the Colts look a little different, and it's fun. The cheerleaders are going to be wearing different uniforms to represent the 1950s era Colts, if you will. So those are the types of things. I mean, I know earlier in the season they had different uniforms. They had the Indiana Knights uniform with the black helmets, and I know people really like that. So yeah, just kind of different fun stuff along the way to celebrate 40 years of being in Indianapolis, which is crazy.
Matt, we always thank you for your time. We love listening. You had a great line during the Tennessee game. I think you said that game had a few too many on Broadway.
Yeah, that game had everything, right? You had punters having to kick, you had backup quarterbacks having to hold, you had special teams touchdowns, you had some questionable calls. I mean, that game's it seemed to have a ton of different wacky layers to it, with quarterbacks fumbling to safeties fumbling back to quarterbacks on the same play. It just had everything. So yeah, I said the game was drunk. The game was inebriated, having stayed out until about 3:00 in the morning at a sorority party, on the streets of Nashville on Broadway.
Just another typical day in the NFL. Matt, again, thanks.
That's right.
Let's go Colts. Let's beat those Steelers.
Absolutely, that's the plan. That's the hope. And it's getting down to the nitty gritty here, with all these games naturally going to mean so much. So I appreciate your guys' support, and I love coming on, hanging out with you guys, talking some ball.
Matt Taylor, voice of the Indianapolis Colts.
Central Indiana Rubber Products provides the power for you. Central Indiana Rubber Products, or CIR, keeps farm equipment and local manufacturing processes running with gaskets, belts, seals, and O-rings, among a variety of other products and services. Employee-owned and always customer-focused. Central Indiana Rubber Products, 989 West, 83 North, Crawfordsville, and at indianarubber.com. Central Indiana Rubber Products, or CIR, power for you.
Big thank you, Matt Taylor, voice of the Indianapolis Colts, on the Crawfordsville Peachcast, and now the greatly anticipated, much revered by the followers, the likers, the listeners of the Crawfordsville Peachcast. It's segment 3, Dave Meyer.
Excited, Dave. The segment 3, the hardcore, the fans, the friends of the show, Dave. Segment 3.
We're going to talk a little bit about football. Might as well keep it in this regard. I'll ask you, Dave, who's your favorite NFL TV announcer working today?
Ooh, good question. Boy, I had much more of a passionate feel about announcers growing up. And today, I was going to say, there are some of the younger guys that, and women that I do care for, but I would probably, I'm old school, so I'm going to go with Jim Nantz.
You like Jim? You like Tony Romo?
I like Tony Romo. I think he, sometimes his flavor got into when he first came around, he's basically almost telling the audience this is what's going to happen next. And a lot of time he was right. And so that you notice now that changed, Collingsworth wasn't doing that before Romo. And now Collingsworth does a little more of that. So it's kind of a different, flavor to the games. I kind of like, the old quarterback, Troy, speaking of Dallas here, but Troy Aikman is a pretty solid, kind of steady analysis kind of guy. So I think I take him. I was, John Madden was kind of the standard for a guy that had a lot of insight into the game as far as the technical aspect, but really what they loved about him was when he would go boom, or talk about the big guys or, the whole thing. So it's more as much analysis and critical insight as you can have. I think it still comes down to who's the most entertaining while you're watching.
I got to salute our good friend, Jeff Nelson, his crew. That would be Kevin Burkhardt and Greg Olson. Greg has done a great job, and Greg did not play for the Cowboys, but yet He's number one on Fox. Don Meredith. Through the years, it's been a kind of a Dallas show. Even Moose Johnston, Daryl, he is number 2 on Fox. So definitely the Cowboys, and you talk about Romo and Aikman still at the top.
Yeah.
There's something about wearing that Cowboy uniform.
Good insight. I never pieced all that together, my friend. And and honestly, if you think back in the Pat Summerall days, they would call it the Cowboys broadcasting system a little bit instead of CBS. So definitely America's team has been pretty helpful in supplying America's broadcasting teams.
I would say, let's see, outside of Kevin Burkhardt, of course, I'm a big fan of Ian Eagle. And Dave, I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay, Dave.
It was 2021, and I really do like Ian Eagle, and I always wanted to meet him one day. And it was at Hinkle Fieldhouse in 2021, and he was doing the NCAA tournament game that was going to be at Hinkle Fieldhouse. I actually saw him standing in line as we're making our way into Hinkle Fieldhouse. I did not go up and introduce myself. Of course, we're all wearing masks. We're getting tested every day for COVID. Should I have gone up and said, "Hi, Ian, I appreciate your work"?
Well, it's always a thing. I know. I don't know. I mean, he's got a great name, right? Ian. It's a charged particle. His parents were confident that he was going to go somewhere.
Not
so,
Ian,
Dave.
Not Ian.
Not Ian. Ian Eagle. So that's, and obviously he brought up his son with a broadcasting bent, which is, again, people talk about Nepo babies, but if you've got the chops, right? And if you love it and you got a chance, and obviously his son, Dave, whose name escapes me.
Noah
Eagle, not as charged as Ian, but he's still doing network games. So pretty good for a 20-something.
So the question, Dave, is when you see somebody like this, should you go up and introduce yourself, particularly at the age of, at that point, 21, I would have been 60.
Okay. See, I think you could have gone, it's my 60th birthday. I'm the voice of Hinkle Fieldhouse. I won't shake your hand, but Ian, you're a pleasure to work for.
Perhaps next time, Dave, I'll say hi to Ian. I do know that next time on the Crawfordsville Peachcast, it has nothing to do with football. It has everything to do with bees. We're going to be talking about Irwin Allen's The Swarm.
The buzz on this movie, Dave. We're going to talk about it.
So many great puns. Honey, I'm watching this movie. That's my favorite one. And of course, I think Alec Baldwin referenced it in Glenn Ross when he said, "Always be closing."
Be closing. Yes, Dave. This is a big. There's some special effects in here that were actually genuinely creepy to me in this movie.
We will talk about it. It is The Swarm coming up. Our good friend Michael Caine is back on lead with a star-studded cast. Dave will talk about it on the next episode of the Crawfordsville Peachcast.
Thanks for listening to the Crawfordsville Peachcast, sponsored by Tri-County Bank, your community bank since 1892. Tri-County Bank, member FDIC, and equal housing lender. I'm Dave Peach. Join us every Thursday for a new episode on Apple or Spotify. Please like, subscribe, and download the Crawfordsville Peachcast. This podcast was produced and edited by Up There Media and is a presentation of Fork Broadcasting Digital.